I ain't gonna lie. This episode of Takt op.Destiny, episode 9, was really good. Another really good episode for this show. And this is kind of actually what I expected from the very beginning, is the first 8 episodes or so to be this build-up of both of these characters of Anna, Takt, and Destiny, and of course the conflict, as well as introducing these side characters, to the last 4 or so episodes being this big, really, I would say, obvious payoff, but nonetheless really entertaining, and one that is decently to well written, I would say. This show has been quite fun throughout pretty much the majority of it, and I think that this episode really proves that it doesn't take an original, unique, convoluted story to have something that's really good and entertaining and worth watching. And I think by the end of this series, we're gonna see just how fun it is, and I think a lot of people are gonna be checking this out. But anyways, I just want to talk about what's in the episode. The beginning of this episode, Lenny is on the phone, and I guess he's talking to someone who knows of Schindler's position, because we see Schindler has lost his mind in the last episode, and in this episode we finally really close his arc out, Schindler's arc, where he is, I guess, in a padded room in an insane asylum. He's just completely lost his noggin, and that is not surprising in the least at all. And we get this speech after he gets off the phone from Titan, where she's like, she will protect everyone, she will protect Destiny and Takt, and Lenny as well. And this is death flags. I mean, I think we've been seeing death flags from Lenny and Titan pretty much throughout the whole series, basically since they were introduced. They seemed like a couple of characters that were destined to die for emotional resonance of some kind. Not to say that it's a bad thing that you could obviously guess that. I think that when it comes to storytelling, a lot of people think that because you can guess that it's going to happen and because it's the most likely outcome, they think that's not good. You need to be subverted at every point, and that's just not the case. A good story is a good story, no matter what, even if you are smart enough to guess where it's going. If anything, that should be a good thing. That's, in my opinion, something of a strong trait, is if you're enjoying a show and you know where it's going. It means that it's having a logical progression. And I think for these two characters, with the death flags being as, well, obvious as they are, that's a good thing. So we get a little bit of world building in this next scene where we finally arrive at New York. It's been 9 episodes and we're finally here. We finally get to see it, and as you could probably guess, it is New York. Surprise, surprise. Nothing has changed. It's pretty much untouched, and that is because after the disaster with the D2s and all of that, pretty much the country put all of their resources into protecting New York, and because of that, it's pristine. There have been no D2 attacks there, but I will say when they were explaining this, it really puts into perspective how grim this post-apocalyptic world is. And yes, people don't realize this about this show. This is a post-apocalyptic world. The world is ended at this point. It was taken over by the D2s. Music has been abolished. I think people, since they think that music being abolished isn't really a post-apocalyptic trait or story that we often see, that this is not post-apocalyptic. It very much is. It's kind of grim the way the world has turned out because of these D2s. Like, they've literally fortified New York, and this is, in many ways, the last bastion of humanity that's left, at least in America. But we finally get to see Anna's sister, Lot. And I don't know what I was expecting. I think I was expecting, because of her name being Lot, like some blonde girl or something. But no, Anna's sister looks like Anna. It's pretty much just Anna. Like, you know how in Fate we have Saberface? And this is not gonna be the first time we mention Fate or Saber in this video. But you know how we have Saberface? Yeah. In this show, we have Anna face, which I'm okay with. Anna's a very pleasant face to have copied and pasted, I suppose. But it's basically just Anna with her hair down, and she's paraplegic, or at least that's seemingly what she is. She's in a wheelchair. That's kind of sad. I don't think we know so far. Maybe we'll explain it in the next couple episodes, like what happened to Anna, but I did not expect Anna to be I did not expect Anna's sister to be wheelchair bound. That's for sure. But hey, she a cutie though. So the first conversation we kind of have with this character immediately is Destiny's like, I want to be fixed. I want to not hurt Takt anymore. as best of my ability. And of course, Lot is like, yeah, we'll have to go to the Symphonica to do that. And they go to the Symphonica, which is the first time we see it. And I'm not very underwhelmed by it, actually. I think this is pretty much what I was expecting. For the most part, this just seems like your run-of-the-mill government facility, which is, I think, what you should expect. We get this small scene, and I find this very interesting scene, especially from a character writing perspective. Destiny pretty much immediately kind of calls out Takt for what's going on with his arm, and Anna's like, why didn't you tell me about this? And Takt says that basically it was his choice, so he didn't feel like he had to share that with people. To which Anna just gives a sigh and is like, like she's been through this before. It makes me think that, and before this has happened, Takt has done things where he's kept things to himself in the past, especially, you know, he's sitting inside playing piano all day back at their old house, you know, like it makes sense for Takt's character to be that way, and it really fits in with what we know so far with Takt in this series. And I think it shows on Anna that she's been through this quite a bit with Takt and is, I guess, not necessarily disappointed. She's just not surprised. She's more of just whelmed by that response. I found that just an interesting back and forth interaction between the two. So Lot is examining Destiny, and we see on her, I guess it's her desk or wherever it is, I'm not even sure, we see a picture of Anna, Cosette, and Lot taking a picture together. Later on in the episode, I think at the very end of the scene, actually, they actually show a close-up of this picture anyways, but this is the first thing that I noticed, and I thought that was a really nice detail to have that picture there, because you have a 12-episode series. You're not going to be able to flesh out the characters with small details like this. I'm not gonna lie, the backgrounds in Takt op.Destiny, while they do look beautiful, for the most part, it's not having a lot of detail in the series' backgrounds. And I think that you could say that is a weakness of the series for sure, is those lack of story building details. But in this episode, they definitely made sure to show that first, and I thought that was a really, really nice touch. It really shows that in the previous life that Cosette was really close to these two sisters, and the three together were like a family along with Takt, which I like to see stuff like that. It's good character building. But sadly, Lot has to really just be the bearer of bad news and break the bad news that their contract as maestro, let's just say master and servant, it's just so much easier, cannot be broken because there is a certain talent they weren't born with, which is called the alpha fetus. And all I could think of was all of those alpha male guys that go on about the alpha male junk, you know? This is a joke that we need to just have, right? We need to go around being, you're not born with the alpha fetus, so you're not an alpha. Like, oh my god, I love that stuff. That's so funny to me. I don't know why they called it the alpha fetus. That seems like just such a Japanese thing to do, is to put two English words together like that and go alpha fetus. I think in Fate, Grand Order, Absolute Demonic Front Babylonia, well, it's just Grand Order in general, I suppose, they called Mash Kairili a designer bebe. I think I said that phrase so many times. I love these phrases. Alpha fetus, designer baby. So much funny stuff. But really, I mean, speaking of Fate, they've basically Shiro Imia'd Takt. But in the worst possible way. So obviously, this connection that he has with Destiny is very much just Shiro Imiya and Saber from the Fate route. But instead, if he keeps fighting, Shiro will die and Destiny will die. So it's one of those things where, unlike in Fate, where it's just Saber will disappear, I guess, die, whatever you want to say. It's actually both of them this time. So I guess you could say it's not totally like Fate in every single way. It's just very like Fate. But we also learn that if he gives up, they'll be able to live longer. Well, I'm not sure about Destiny. I guess Destiny would. Takt would be able to live out his life as he wishes, because he, Destiny won't be draining his life force. And this is the part where I realized, oh, this is a Mappa episode, because we get this really nice slice of life moment in the episode where everybody's happy together. They wake up Takt in the morning, Anna and Destiny and Lot, and they're like, we're going out, we're going to go have fun. And Takt has been staying up all night trying to write this song he's been trying to, and Destiny is the one to make him go. Once again, I love the way that they're portraying Destiny now. She's very much the same character. She hasn't changed completely in terms of the way she acts and goes about expressing herself. It's just that now she has a little bit more expression, which is the perfect way to write these kinds of characters. Just give them a little bit more expression. That's all they need. A lot of other shows will just have the character not change at all or change everything about the character to be a totally different person. No, Destiny is a kudere-ish character, and she should stay that way and have those traits and qualities that make her her. And you shouldn't change those things. And that's really what I think they've been excelling at with her character in this series so far. Then they do like the little romance trope thing where Anna and Lot, I guess it's Anna, gets the idea to leave them be. They talk about how, oh, we gotta go first. So Takt, you and Destiny can just go over there and have a dinner date, have some lunch together. Isn't that so convenient? Okay, we'll see you kids later. Classic trope. Really is in this series, I think, perfect for moving along these two characters. And I'm glad they did it, because it was actually a really nice moment in this episode. It's the part of the episode where I went, oh yeah, Destiny is really showing her saber quite a bit. This is this episode, she was so much like Saber in this episode. I think definitely the archetype for this character was Saber in Fate Route. I mean, I think the whole archetype for this anime was just the Fate Route. It really feels like a more condensed, modernized version of just Fate Route, which, cool, I guess. I've been clamoring for a Fate Route remake, or I guess a retelling in anime form for quite a while. As you guys know, I'm a pretty big Fate fan. So, I mean, this is a way to get it, I suppose. Just a retelling in a totally different format and way. So we have this sit down in the park, which is very much like the sit down in the park between Shiro and Saber, where Destiny is like, you know what? I want you to be happy. I want you to live a life where you don't have to fight, and you can write your music and you can express yourself as much as you possibly want to. This is really nice. We don't really see much of this from Destiny. I think because of what they've went through, especially in the last episode, they were able to just see each other for who they are, forward their friendship. So basically, showing her saber once again in this scene. That's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it showing her saber. Anyways, they basically vow to destroy the D2s. Takt does, along with Destiny. So they're going to continue to fight. That's obvious. That makes sense. And I imagine they're probably going to be bailed out. I cannot see Takt or Destiny dying in this series, nor would I want them to. Of course, in the Fate Route, the original version of this story, Saber perishes at the end because most masters and servants just kind of go away at the end of a Holy Grail war. Yeah, there you go. So really the last part that I want to talk about with this episode is, heaven is super evil and nobody knows about it yet. So that's interesting because they're really keeping this under wrap. This whole Sagan and heaven and hell thing, they are the last bastion of humanity, is being ran by the very enemy itself. It's very interesting. It makes me think that maybe the D2s landed a very long time ago, and since then Sagan has found a way to control them and has been using them to take over the world. And so in many ways, this is a story of where the bad guys won, if this is the case, if my theory is correct. Which, I mean, as we stated at the very beginning of this episode, that's a possibility. It's a possibility. So yeah, but we get this part where Destiny's like, Maestro, I hear the tuning fork. And that's where I thought that. I was like, okay, yeah, this is probably a situation where the bad guys won before the events of the series, and that's why there's this post-apocalypse. It's just a really cool, Yeah, honestly, it is really cool. That is a really cool thing. I don't think we've seen a lot of anime where the bad guys have won, or where like it's in this kind of post-apocalyptic setting where the bad guys have won. If that is the case, man, I actually kind of want to see that. That is really interesting. Like Sagan using all of the D2s because he found these ways to control them, and used the Symphonica as a way to hide that under the pretense of like we're saving humanity, but in reality we're just taking over the world and none of you are privy to this. Man, that's actually a really, really good twist. A really, really good twist. If that is the case, wow. And if they pull it off, man, I think I'd have to recommend this series to a lot of people. I think this would be an easy recommendation. That's really, really smart if they do it. Anyways. So Lenny calls Takt on the phone, and we basically learn that the Symphonica is related to his father's death. And Lenny's like, hey, protect Anna and Destiny. And once again, even Takt says it. It's like, this is kind of like a conversation you have when you're going to die. Are you okay, Lenny and Titan? Lenny's like, oh, don't worry about it. Ara, ikimasho. You know how Lenny is. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. I mean, once again, very obvious the Symphonica is related to his father's death. Anyone could have told you that from episode 1. So the Symphonica is not good, turns out. Turns out it's a lot of good people under the pretense of working for someone evil. Who knew? This episode overall though was pretty dang good. I actually really enjoyed this episode, especially for a Mappa episode. I don't think I've enjoyed very many of their episodes. And once again, I don't know if Mappa did this episode, but much like the predictable nature of this series so far, if a show doesn't have a lot of action, typically that means Mappa did the episode. But so far, I think the collaboration between the two have been pretty good, and I can't wait for next episode. I think we're gonna get some cool fights. We're gonna get Lenny and Titan, probably their deaths. If not, that'll be the episode after that. But then again, we also have the question marks up in the air of where's Valkyr? Where's Best Girl at? What's she doing? We'll have to see. Put down in the comments below, what are your theories on where she is, by the way? And what do you think about my theory on this being a story where the bad guys won and it's a post-apocalyptic because they won and nobody knows? Put down in the comments below. I'd like to hear your thoughts, comments, concerns on this episode, and as well my video on everything you need to know before Demon Slayer Season 2, as starting this week, I will be covering that series weekly. Thanks everybody for watching. Bye-bye.